Hi class, wanted to do a quick follow-up video tutorial of some of the things that we went over in class yesterday. I thought it went well. I know it's moving fast. Do email me if you have any questions or if you want to go over things one-on-one. We can try to meet or also meet over Skype so you can share your screen and I can help you with any problems you're having. So just quickly to run through the things that we went over. If you launch Max, the first thing that's going to come up is your patcher window. It's probably going to bring up your last thing that you did. I was showing you guys the tutorials. But if you go to new patcher, you're going to get a new patcher window. Remember that the patcher window has a few modes. Basically, they're along the bottom and the side axis. Along the bottom axis, you have the ability to lock and unlock the patch. Remember that to interact with objects like something like this, you can only add it and adjust it and edit. You can move it around, and then once you lock it, you can actually interact with it to change the parameters. This is the same with things like buttons. If I do a comment box and then do a message box and say set to answer, I can't actually click it because I could be editing it in the unlocked mode, so I have to lock it. You can also use Command E to lock, and then you can interact and click the object. Okay. So lock and unlock is the first one. The next is presentation mode. If I have something like a jitter object or a movie, what I can do is add things that I want to see to presentation mode. And then when I switch to presentation mode, only those objects stay. Once again, I mentioned this yesterday, but be careful not to add things in presentation mode if you don't want them to be in just presentation mode, because that's where they'll stay. Okay, we're going to ignore a few of the other ones, but the one that we did talk about was debugging mode. This is useful if we use B to add just a whole bunch of what we call bang messages. We attach these like this. Zoom in a little bit for you. One thing that we can do is we can take all the patch cords. If we're curious, if we can't remember what the signal flow is, or the signal flow is getting confusing, there's a lot of patches, and you're just not exactly sure what order things are happening, you can select by clicking all of your patch cords, right-click, add watch point break, and then when you go into debugging, you're going to see that it pops up. You can actually now lock your patch and walk through each step of it. So it's went there, and then to 2, 3, 4, and then to 1. Okay? So that's the basics of debugging mode. Okay, on the right-hand side, we have the inspector and the reference. Those are the two main ones that you're going to use. What they do is, let's say that we want to do something like message or a metro object and a message that we're going to send to it. Metro, if we go to the inspector, you're going to see different basic things about that object. So for instance, we could just change the text color. Now you can see that the text color is different. You can change the size of it in here. All those sort of things you can include in presentation mode right directly from this. And then these are basic layout and recent, but you can also go to the All tab, which has all of the different parameters that you can change about that object. This is a really useful tool to have right here on the sidebar, the inspector. Okay, the next thing is reference. Now reference tells you things that you can use to change the parameters of this object. So for instance, the bang starts the clock. So if we create a bang, connect it to the input that says start and stop metronome, we'll create another one. Just create a toggle, for instance, that shows when it's on and off. It's larger. If we lock it and click, now let's change it to 1,000. You'll see that every 1 second it's turning on and off. So the bang alternates the toggle state, it turns it on and off. Okay. Now, we have some of these other ones that we talked about. Within the object itself, we can call at an attribute. So for instance, let's try, I don't actually know what the thickness would be, but if we wanted to change the interval, let's say, we could say at interval. You can see that it actually pops up out here. Now let's make it every half second, every 500 milliseconds. And if we do that and we start it, see that it changes it. We can also override that by setting an incoming message. I clicked on the 1,000, now it's back to 1 second. Now, this could be a variable thing too. We could set a number. If you create a new, and we change that number going into the right inlet, we can actually, in real time, change. Now what I did is click in the number box and just drag up and down. You can see that in real time we can change that parameter. So it doesn't have to be just a single set thing. This is something that can change constantly. Okay. Now, those are the bottom and the side menus with some of the options that are super useful. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to walk you through a few of the basic things, the tools that we use within the Max Patcher window that we talked about. So the first one is comments. Comments are very useful. You just press C, and if you press C, you're going to get a box like this. You can type in text. The second type of thing, these are used largely for organizing. They're a good way to clarify what different parts of your patches do. You can always command copy and paste or option drag to get a bunch of different things. The next sort of tool we have is the message, which you can use directly by pressing M. If you use set and then some value, you can set things, both objects and comment boxes and other messages. Let's see by clicking it. And messages themselves can be set using the right inlet. So if we make a number and we connect to the right inlet, whoops, we're going to see we can change that directly as I drag up and down the number box. Okay, so those are our first basic things. We have the comments, we have the message, and the last thing that we talked about, this is a comment, use C to get it, message, use M to get it, and then we have objects. And objects, you can press N or you can double click. They both do the same thing for you. Objects are things that do a specific type of function in a specific order. So a print, for instance, can take message and print it. If we change this so that we don't have to go to the other window, we say at pop-up and turn it on with a 1. Now you'll see when we click message, it's going to pop up. It's going to send that to us. So messages are the settings that we send to different things like comment boxes and objects. Comments are things that can be changed, but they're largely used for organizing and keeping our patches clean. And then objects themselves perform a specific function in a specific order. And remember, the order is what we talked about before, but basically if we have a something like this, if we connect these, the order in which these will actually go will be bottom right to left and bottom to top. So it's first going to go, 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 go. And you can check that with your debugging mode. Okay. And then very briefly, let's talk about some of the basic objects that we went over that are helpful. The first one is obviously print. Print or print at pop-up gives you anything that you send to it. It prints into your Max console. You can go to Window, Max console, and then if I send my name, you'll see that it prints up here. The other thing you can do with print is you can give it an argument that basically tags onto it if you're trying to keep things organized. So let's say that you want a bunch of things. Let's say you want to print name and age. When you click these now, you'll notice that it comes up over here with name as a tag for the input coming into that print object and age as the one coming in here. This is a good way to keep it organized if you're using the print to monitor the data flow through your patch. So print is very useful. The other ones that you may want to use, we talked about Metro. Metro sends out a bang message. That's all it does. It just sends an impulse out. You turn it on with a toggle or a bang, and you set a parameter of how many milliseconds you want in between each time it does it. So we're going to click that first to set it, turn this on, and you're going to see that changes. That's the Metro object. You could actually, let's go back and keep that. Counter is another one that we used yesterday. Counter keeps track. Again, we can set, drag over here and see, set the count maximum with this input. So let's send it a message and say 5. And we're going to take the outputs right from this, count it. We're going to use an object called number, which just keeps track of a number. And then over here we see when we hit the maximum, it's going to flag it. So let's go ahead and make a bang, a comment over here that says when reach max, which we're setting at 5. And then this, we're going to connect right back to turn this off at 5. Let's try it. We're going to set the counter to 5. We're going to turn on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it turns it off. Okay. And then actually we'll use this one more time and talk about an additional way to do this. We could also, instead of using the maximum reach, you could also use one called select. And select sends a bang when the input is matched. Now there's two ways to set this. Remember, with attributes we could either say, over here we could say we want to wait for the number 5 and set it like that. And this output bangs when it matches what we're asking it to match. So we either do that, we'll see. Oh, we have to. Sorry, having problems here. Oh, so that was bad. Okay, hold on. So we're going to set this again. And we should get, when we get to 5, we're going to notice that this is going to select 5, and then it'll send it up and turn this off. There we go. Hit 5 and it turned off. So we can use select to look for a specific input. And the other output is that if it doesn't match. So let's say we want to just monitor the timing by updating a message. We can do that over here. Well, we'll keep it down here for clarity. That would just keep count down there. And then at 5, it would, instead of going to this, because it matches the 5, it's going to go down here. We can also set it down here, directly inside that, and you'll notice it does the exact same thing. Turns it off. Okay, now remember that what I want you to do for your assignment is that you were each working in groups. You all got pretty much 99% of the way there in class, so I'm confident that you can get this assignment done, but if you do have any questions, let me know. So the 3 things that I really want you to focus on are, 1, you're making a patch that lasts for 60 seconds, then turns itself off. The second thing is you're going to be making a patch which gives us text instructions in a comment box. So you're updating a comment box with a set message for a bunch of different instructions that happen at different times. So you're probably going to want to use a select object from the counter that's keeping count, and then send it to trigger at different times when the selection matches 20 seconds or 30 seconds or 40 seconds, different triggers for setting the comment box. And the third thing is that you're going to be using a message, which is you're going to use the write inlet to continually update the time. the time passed. So from your counter, you're going to have probably a number box showing you what it is, but then I want you to also send that to the right inlet of a message. Then you're going to take those objects, the toggle to turn it on and off, the text instructions in the comment box, and the message with the continually updating time. You're going to add them to presentation mode, and then work in presentation mode to make it very, very clean, make sure everything works, make your patches readable as possible, so that when we get it, we can put it in presentation mode and perform it. One more time, I'll show you the example that I came up with. I think it was this one. Okay, so when we go to presentation mode, you'll see I have a thing that updates here with the time. I have examples down here, the text updates. We should see it change in a minute here. There you can see. Okay, so I have some instructions. I have this big clean timer. I have the toggle to turn it on and off. And if I go out of presentation mode, you can see that I've got my, it's a little disorganized, but I've got my counter object, and then I've got it setting at different times, selecting 1, 10, 25, 30, 40, 45, and 55, and then sending out of appropriate outlets, setting the text for these two different boxes. If I unlock it, you can see the connections. I actually have two boxes here that are getting set. These are background things. They're called panel, and panels can be helpful just for using in the background so that things are nice and clean, just sort of organize. So that's what I'm looking for. Then you're going to upload that onto Goucher Space. You should see the link to that later today. Every person needs to upload their own version. I wanted you to be able to work together in class, to try to work through some of the technical stuff in groups, but I am expecting everyone to upload their own, and then we're going to go through a bunch of them in class and perform them to make sure that they work and troubleshoot any things that are common problems that come up in your various patches. Okay, so that's what you're doing for next week. Please remember too that you need to pick up a MIDI controller at some point. We are going to start using that next class, so bring it with you. Also make sure you bring your headphones with you since we will be starting audio next time. Okay, well thanks so much everyone for a great first class. I hope this video was helpful, and we will see you next week.